All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our live informational webinar on our Circumnavigation of Ireland and Northern Ireland tour we're hosting next year. I'm Andrew Hott, the Director of Travel here at the World Affairs Council of Philadelphia. And I have with me Fiorella Fernandez, who's the program's coordinator, as well as Paul Nugent, who I will introduce in a moment. Today we will be reviewing the itinerary. We'll pause after the pre-tour itinerary and the main tour itinerary for questions anybody has, or you can enter them into the chat. Then we'll have a short presentation on the importance of travel insurance, and we have Angel Ramos here, who is from USI, our trusted travel partner. The brochures for these tours will be mailing out next week, so if you aren't on our mailing list, please send Fiorella or myself your address. And this session will be recorded, and we will follow up afterwards with the recording so you can share with your friends. Okay. So why travel with World Affairs? So World Affairs has been operating a travel program for over 45 years. We always work with the highest quality travel partners around the world to deliver programs with expert guides and directors, giving you a firsthand experience into the culture and people you are visiting. We provide access to high-level briefings, send you educational resources to enhance your expertise, and facilitate personal interactions with community leaders, experts, and historians. It is now my pleasure to introduce Paul Nugent, who is the Executive Director of the Southeast Connecticut World Affairs Council. He is an Ireland native who lived through the Troubles as well. He has expertise in international affairs, including Irish history, current affairs, U.S. foreign policy, diplomatic history, and international relations. He's also a member of the Society of Historians of American Foreign Relations. He presented on Brexit's impact on Ireland and Anglo-Irish relations over the past 120 years. Paul will be with you the whole time as the tour leader, in addition to a great staff at Gohagan that will have travel directors and things. We're also offering an exclusive pre-tour that's a World Affairs Council members and travelers only that Paul will talk about in a minute. So with that, I will pass it over to Paul. Thank you, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure to be working with the Philadelphia World Affairs Council. As Andrew said, I am I'm a big fan of the World Affairs Council. I'm executive director of our chapter here in Southeast Connecticut. I live in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Next slide. Let's see. Yeah. So what I'll do is I'll do a very brief run through the itinerary for the pre-tour, as Andrew said, and I'll just point out a few key events. So you'll be staying at the Conrad Dublin Hotel. The 14 Henrietta Street Museum is a wonderful Georgian house museum in the center of Dublin. That's it in the bottom right of that quadrant of 4 photos. It's a museum that gives you an idea of what life was like from the early 1700s in Ireland right through to the 20th century and living accommodation. And within about 10-minute walk of the Henrietta Street Museum is the wonderful Cobblestone pub that's in the bottom left. And there at 5 o'clock every evening, musicians gather in the front room, and there is a session, as we call it in Ireland, of wonderful traditional Irish music, fiddles, guitars, banjos, bowrons, you name it. And so that's an easy easy way to get there. And then after that session, we could do dinner at a nearby restaurant. You're in the heart of downtown Dublin at this point. Next slide. So on day 2, we'll visit Trinity College Dublin. That's it on the top right of the quadrant. And of course, Trinity College is one of the oldest universities in Europe and the oldest in Ireland. It is also houses the famous Book of Kells, an illuminated manuscript from the first millennium. We will then also visit down in the bottom left corner is Kilmainham Jail. That takes you into the 19th century prison, but even more famous in the early 20th century, as it is the place where the leaders of the 1916 rebellion were, in quotes, housed prior to being executed by firing squad for leading the Easter Rebellion of 1916. And then later that evening, we'll have a group dinner. Next slide. Day 3, we'll do a Dublin walking history tour. I've done a couple of these myself, always very interesting, very knowledgeable guides. After lunch, we'll visit the 1916 Rebellion Museum. That's in a building called the GPO, or General Post Office. That's it in the top left of that quadrant of 4 pictures. The leaders of the rebellion took over that building, essentially read the Irish Declaration of Independence outside, went back in, piled the windows with sandbags, and waited for the British Army to arrive. And they did a few hours later, and the battle went on for 5 days. You'll learn all about that at a wonderful museum associated with that building. And it's still, would you believe it, a working post office. Down in the bottom right of that quadrant, you'll see the back of the Museum of Literature of Ireland. We call it Molly, MOLI, and it's a wonderful museum on St. Stephen's Green. And especially, they have a very good collection of Joyce, Jimmy Joyce books, first editions of Ulysses, etc. And then later you'll do dinner on your own, and I'm happy to point to a few good restaurants in the area and bars. Next slide. On day 4, then we'll visit Dublin Castle. That was the seat of the British government in Ireland for several hundred years. We'll also visit the Teeling whiskey distillery. It's quite nearby, and then lunch at an old-fashioned Victorian pub, Nancy Hands. And then we'll join the main group and embark on the ship for the main part of the tour. So that, I think, covers the pre-tour. Next slide. Yeah. So any questions on that from the audience? No? Okay, so for the main tour, I'm delighted that we have as a guest speaker Fintan O'Toole. He's a remarkable individual. He's a journalist. He was a visiting professor at Princeton University. He's a member of the Royal Irish Academy. I mean, truly, if ever there was a Renaissance man in Ireland at the moment, Fintan O'Toole is he. He came out in 2022 with a wonderful book. This is my copy of it, well thumbed and read twice. We Don't Know Ourselves, which is a great history of Ireland from 1958 to the present. Fintan and I share the same year of birth, so it was particularly interesting to read. He's an award-winning journalist, a very, very smart guy, and he'll give us a good, I'm sure he'll speak to Ireland in the 20th century, particularly the changes that have happened in the last 30 years, which have been remarkable. Next slide. So then day 1, we're going to start out from, you'll arrive, for those who haven't done the pre-tour, you'll arrive in Dublin, and then in the afternoon embark on this beautiful boat, the World Voyager, and dinner on board that evening. Next slide. On day 3, we'll visit Cove. Yes, that's C-O-B-H, Cove. BH is a V sound in the Gaelic language, and Cove is basically the harbour at Cork. The Titanic, interesting, stopped off at Cove before it headed out across the Atlantic, and you'll hear a little more about the Titanic later. We'll visit, of course, the famous Blarney Castle. We'll visit Kinsale, which is a wonderful fishing town along the southwest coast of Ireland. And then on some option, there'll be also to visit the Ballymaloe Cookery School, which is an incredible place, a family-run cookery school. On day 4, then there'll be dinner with the captain apparently that evening. On day 4, we'll circumnavigate west around West Cork and County Kerry, by Bantry Bay, toward Garnish Island Gardens. I went there many, many years ago with my wife, who's a landscape architect, and she couldn't believe the wonderful Mediterranean type flowers in this area. And of course, that's the benefit of the southwest of Ireland gets remarkably warm weather. The Beara Peninsula is one of those little feet that stick out at the bottom of Ireland, and Bantry House is one of those Victorian era houses, once owned by an English landlord, but now owned by Irish people, which as it should be. Next slide. We'll then continue up, heading north, and we'll pass Skellig Michael and the Dingle Peninsula. Skellig Michael is an island off the coast of Kerry. It was visited by monks in the 6th century, I think it was, and a very remote place, made famous more recently. I think Hollywood went there and made a movie about Star Wars. One of the Star Wars movie was set there. The Dingle Peninsula is the uppermost of those little fingers that stick out at the bottom of Ireland, and the Dingle Peninsula is remarkable. You're very, very likely to hear people speaking Gaelic in the Dingle Peninsula, in the town of Dingle. They take the Irish language very seriously there. We'll also do a drive around Slea Head. On day 4, you can visit the cliffs of Moher and do a walking tour of the Burren. The Burren is most of County Clare. Is the Burren. It's a great big limestone rock outcrop, if you like, with remarkable Mediterranean plants and everything there. It's quite special, and a lot of interesting old archaeological remnants. Small tombs and small graveyards. We'll also explore Connemara Castle. So Connemara is the area north of Galway City, so the piece of Ireland that sticks out west. And then we'll have some live music on the boat that evening. Next slide. So a special part of this trip will be to visit one of the Aran Islands. There are 3 islands. Inishmore is the one we'll visit. Inish is the Gaelic for island, and more means big. So this is the big island, and there's 2 other smaller ones. We'll have a guided tour, and we'll visit Duningasa, which is the picture to the right of the 2, which is I think a Bronze Age fort. Notice that they didn't bother putting a wall on the left side because that's 600 feet drop. So nobody was coming up that side of the to attack them. We'll then on day 8 we'll continue on up to the northwest and the north of Ireland. We'll visit Dunluce Castle, and then of course the famous Giant's Causeway, this remarkable geological formation, basalt rocks, I think it is, and that's spectacular piece of geology in the north of Ireland. Next slide. And then, of course, we couldn't not visit Belfast, a very important city in Ireland. I would call it the second most important. I'm sure people in the north of Ireland think it's the most important. We'll do the Black Taxi tour of Belfast. That's a tour run by those large black taxis. You see them, they're more associated with London, but they have a lot of them in Belfast. And we'll do a tour covering the Troubles, 1968 to 1998. And you'll get a sense of what life was like in Ireland during that dark time. But of course, we've had 30 years of peace, thanks in large part to US diplomacy, in fact, Bill Clinton and Senator George Mitchell's work. We will visit the Titanic Museum in Belfast. This is where they built the boat. And then that evening we'll have the captain's farewell reception and dinner. And on day 4, then we'll come back down the east side and return to Dublin. And I think that's about it. Maybe. Oh, then there's that's the main part, and then there's a post tour extension. We'll visit County Kilkenny, so you'll get a sense of the County Kilkenny is located in the southeast of Ireland. We'll also visit the Rock of Cashel and its medieval church. Kilkenny Castle itself it's not a town. Kilkenny is actually a city, although it's a very small city. Kilkenny Castle is a Norman castle. It was owned by the Butler family. The Butlers were Normans, actually. The Nugents were too. We came over in the 12th century to Ireland from France. And then we'll also do a guided tour of Jerpoint Park, which is associated with an abbey. A lot of parks and that sort of thing in Ireland are associated either with abbeys or big old Victorian houses. Next slide. And that's it, I guess. Questions. Happy to answer any questions about the trip, about the history.
I have some questions.
Sure.
What is the ship that would be on? How many people does it take? Tell us a little bit, what are the choices in terms of cabins? Tell us a little bit about that.
David, so that will be all in the brochure, all the specific details. There usually are about 8 different cabin categories. Some of them, the lower ones just have a porthole, and some of them have a little balcony. And I believe it's like 150 cabin boat, so it's a pretty small vessel as well. But yeah, if you aren't, I'm going to receive the brochure on our mailing list. Please let us know because those will be going out very soon. It'll have all those details in there.
What's the ship company? Who's the?
Oh, it's the World Navigator, I think. Is that
To what?
It's the company is Atlas, and it is where's the name here? It is the yeah, it's the World Voyager, Atlas World Voyager.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful ship. It was just built a few years ago. We use it a lot for various cruises around the world, and we get very, very high marks. So it's a really great ship.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Okay, wonderful. Please, if you have any more questions, you're more than welcome to toss them into the chat or anything like that. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Paul, for helping us go through the itinerary and lending your amazing expertise. I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight about how to register. Again, my name is Fiorella. I'm the programs coordinator here at World Affairs Council. I've given you 2 different phone numbers that you can reach us at there. You can call both numbers, of course, and you can also text the one on the bottom. That is my direct line, so you're more than welcome to call or text that number if you have any questions or concerns. In addition to request a reservation, you will go to our website. We have this very specific link here, wacfilla.org/tour/Ireland. And there will be a request reservation form that you'll fill out, and you'll add some personal information. And then we'll send that over to our travel partner, and then you'll hear back about next steps. And if you have any questions about filling out that form or have any struggle with that whatsoever, again, feel free to give me a call. Feel free to email us. Feel free to contact us in any way. Just so you are aware, there's an early bird deadline to save on this trip, to save $500 if you book by the 4th of February, 2025. So that would be great to, hop on that discount just to make sure that you're saving some money. So again, if you have any questions or need some guidance, just please give me a call, give me a text, email me, and I'd be happy to help you. Thank you so much. Now, we are moving on to travel insurance. I'm going to play this short video, and then please let me know if you have any trouble hearing it. And then we'll have Angel here for any questions or concerns that you may have about travel insurance.
At USI, we have a wide range of insurance products, including trip cancellation, global medical insurance plans, annual insurance, and medical evacuation coverage. Travel insurance can help you plan your next trip with peace of mind in case something goes wrong. We offer coverage in case you have to cancel your trip before you depart, plus coverage during your trip for disruptions like illness, lost baggage, travel delays, and more. Our customer service reps are all licensed insurance agents and will help walk travelers through the process of buying insurance and determining which plan really meets their needs. If you do need to file a claim, we're here to support you. Claims are administered by a third-party company, which means we can advocate on your behalf throughout the claims process. As a trusted travel insurance provider, we have a 50-year record of protecting travelers and gaining loyal customers.
Wonderful. So does anyone have any questions or concerns about travel insurance that we can have Angel, as he's on the call, to answer?
Good. But I do want to add something,
Yeah.
Fiorella, because I see that there's a cruise involved. With travel insurance, for those travelers who are going on a pre-trip, they'll be arriving a few days before taking the cruise. So that will cover any missed hotels if they have a travel delay or an interruption of the trip. During the cruise ship, if there is a situation where they need some type of medical coverage, that will be covered. But if they're, let's say they're too sick and they're either quarantined into the cabin, then just insurance company does not consider the quarantine claimable um, reason to cover the cost of the cruise because you're still using the cabin. So I always recommend that if that's the situation and you're really sick or you got injured, instead of being quarantined, discuss with the doctor and see if you can just come home because you're not going to enjoy the rest of the trip. You might as well then submit the claim for the portions you're not using. This way it would allow you to use whatever part of the cruise you weren't able to enjoy because you had to come home early instead of being quarantined in the cruise and not getting claimed, not getting reimbursed for the nights you didn't enjoy of the cruise. If that makes any sense. If not,
Yeah.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah.
Cruises are
Is there a
tricky.
sense of rates?
I'm sorry, Miss Molly?
A sense of rates?
Yeah, rates go by the cost of the trip and the age of the traveler. Our policies do have a 3-tier, so it's a basic, a plus, and an elite. The difference between the three is usually the other benefits for like medical insurance and emergency evacuation. I usually recommend the plus plan because it is a middle grade covering up to $50,000 for medical coverage, 100,000 for evacuation. You can always reach out to one of our representatives and they'll be happy to give you a detail to what suits your budget as well as your needs.
And I'm happy to send over the USI information, contact information to anyone who's interested. And we do also send that information out once you've booked with us as well. Any additional questions?
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining. As we said, we will be sharing this recording afterwards, so please call us, text us, email us. We're always here to talk to our travelers. And yeah, Fiorella will be sending that out in the near future. And please share with your friends and let us know when you want to register. Thank you.
Thank you.